Welcome to the Liberty Show. I'm Auntie and our star,
Ron Senkush. Welcome.
Today we are actually going to show a video that we discovered pretty recently, and we're going to probably discuss this a little bit afterwards and get your opinion. Or get our opinion on this video.
Yeah, it's a video that talks about a situation that's happening in China, and I know that we don't live in China. We don't film the Liberty Show in China, at least not yet anyway, or under those rules. But it's one of the types of things that you always have to watch what's going on in the rest of the world, because it seems like these ideas spread, and it's just a matter of time before their ideas come here. So
exactly.
With that, we'll discuss it after the fact. But right now, let's go ahead and start the video, and we'll be back right after this.
Okay, so one of you recently brought this to our attention, and when we first started looking into it, we couldn't believe it. Even now, looking at this, I keep thinking that there's gotta be something about this that I just don't understand. Like, I must be reading this wrong. It's just so clearly something out of dystopian science fiction, and yet, here it is in our world, and people are actually embracing it. Apparently, China has gamified being an obedient citizen. Going under the innocuous name of Sesame Credit, China has created a score for how good a citizen you are. And that's one of the scariest things I've heard in quite a while. It's jointly run by Tencent, yes, that Tencent, the one that owns Riot Games and has a significant share in Epic and Activision Blizzard, and also the ascendant Chinese competitor to Amazon, Alibaba, hence the name Sesame. So the owners of China's largest social networks have partnered with the government to create something akin to the US credit score. But instead of measuring how regularly you pay your bills, it measures how obediently you follow the party line. They dredge data from your social network, so if you post pictures of Tiananmen Square or share a link about the recent stock market collapse, your Sesame credit score goes down. Share a link from the state-sponsored news agency about how good the economy's doing, and your score goes up. But Alibaba and Tencent are also the largest online retailers in China, so Sesame Credit is also able to pull data from your purchases. If you're making purchases the state deems valuable, like work shoes or local agricultural products, your score goes up. If you import anime from Japan, though, down the score goes. And this score has real-world consequences. Like many games, Sesame Credit has tiers and levels, and having a high score gives you special benefits, like making it easier to get the paperwork you need to travel, or making it easier to get a loan. Now, currently, there are no consequences for having a low score, but there's been talk about implementing penalties once the system becomes mandatory in 2020. Penalties like slower internet speeds for low-scoring citizens, or even restricting the jobs that a low-scoring person's allowed to hold. But there's one more layer to Sesame Credit, and here's where this goes from being repulsive to downright insidious. Because this is all part of a social network, it also scans your friends. So you will lose points for having friends with low obedience scores. And it tells you this. At any point, anybody can check anyone else's score. And when you check your own score, Sesame Credit provides a handy map of your friends to show you who's dragging your score down. Have you ever had that thing where you play a game with somebody who wasn't doing very well, and you've tried to change their behavior to make them do better? Or maybe after a while you just sort of stopped playing with the people who were holding you back? That's at the heart of how this system works. And it's also what makes this one of the most terrifying tools of authoritarian oppression I've ever read about. Because, like, mass censorship, jail time, assassinations, those are all big, messy implements for keeping a population in line. That messiness and severity foster resentment, eventually rebellion. They're expensive, they're unwieldy. In the end, those tools are impossible to maintain. But social pressure? Ostracization? Those things are free. They happen on their own. And as a government tool, they don't have nearly the same potential for going embarrassingly, disastrously wrong. With a system like this in place, a government doesn't even have to tell neighbor to spy on neighbor, to rat each other out, because that's all built into a seemingly innocuous game system. The government need not step in. Re-education will be handled for them by friends, classmates, and relatives who want to maintain a high score. And if that doesn't work, then potentially dangerous ideas still end up quarantined by the social isolation this game system causes. Express or help to spread too many radical ideas, and people will stop associating with you. And not because some jackbooted thug showed up at the door with threats, but simply because associating with somebody with those ideas will lose them all the privileges they've worked so hard to obtain. It recontextualizes obedience to an authoritarian regime. In the past, you obeyed such powers because you were afraid. Fear kept you motivated. But fear is negative. It fosters resentment. The world we're stepping into instead uses positive reinforcement to promote being subservient to the will of the regime. It's Big Brother's kinder, gentler hand. And the things that make this scary is that we've seen the efficacy of this only too well in games. You may not actually know this, but when World of Warcraft was in its early stages of development, it had an unrested penalty mechanic that started limiting experience gains for players who had played too much. And players hated it. They resented it and they complained about it every day. So, after brainstorming on this for a while, Blizzard had the idea to simply change how the mechanic was presented. Without changing any of the existing numbers or systems, they started referring to the unrested experience penalty state as normal and made it the default. And they started calling the original normal experience gain state as rested. That's all they changed, and everybody loved it. People would log on every day just to get that bonus. Positive reinforcement works wonders. But unlike World of Warcraft, which built a system just to get people to embrace meaningless grinding, Sesame Credit has built a system to get people to enjoy falling into line. Now, the system's not mandatory yet. It's opt-in right now, but it's going to be mandatory in 2020, and there's a terrible brilliance to phasing that in. The early adopters are going to be people excited about this system, people who are already patriotic and are eager for anything that'll help display that patriotism to the world. And as early adopters, they're going to talk it up. They're going to give it an air of being positive and fun. Then it'll be foisted on the society as a whole. More than that, though, the early adopters are going to compete. Already, you can see hundreds of thousands of tweets displaying people's high scores or showing off the new milestones they've hit, giving hard numbers to their patriotism and giving them bragging rights for being the most patriotic, most right-thinking person they know. And that's gonna set the tone for how Sesame Credit is intended to be used, as a competition to see who can agree with the government the most. We've talked about propaganda games on this channel before, but for all the time we've spent examining and deconstructing terrible games that espouse hate, and for all the studies on propaganda games James has done, this is the use of game systems that frightens me the most. Because to most people, Sesame Credit will seem benign, perhaps even fun. It's a conversation starter, something to share with your friends. But it's making heavy use of all the psychological motivators that we game makers deploy in scoring systems and ladders and levels, systems that we build to shape play habits and to keep people coming back. Like I said, I'm still kind of in a state of disbelief looking at this. If any of you are watching this from China, please tell me if I'm misunderstanding this thing, because I would love to be wrong about it. If not, well, I hope this episode can do some small amount to help the fight to keep such a system from becoming mandatory. For everyone in the rest of the world, I hope this helps remind us all how important it is to be aware and to be vigilant. All of these gamification techniques we've learned through making games offer incredible opportunities for making this world a better, more engaging place. But every great tool carries with it the potential for misuse. And it's on us as a community who understands this amazing new medium to do what we can to stop that. We'll see you next week.
All right, so that was the video we had for you. Welcome back to the Liberty Show. Anti-oligarchy. So over in China, they're going to make a video game. And the video game, the goal of the video game will be to be a good, obedient citizen.
Right. And oh boy, does this have 1984 Orwell written all over it. And done so in such a way that it's very... it appears to be very insidious and very mild, actually, at first.
Yeah. I actually have to go and say that without being a fan of what they're doing at all, I honestly think this is ingenious. And here's why. I mean, if you think about the history of totalitarianism, over the years, how governments have repressed people and had them under control and taken away their liberties, that always has a cost. It's, the cost of the surveillance state, the cost of generating the fear, of making the examples out of people who step out of bounds. And then there's a side effect of that, and the side effect of treating people like that is resent and hatred, towards the state, right?
Right. And matter of fact, all you have to look to... well, actually, the Chinese people could even look to the example of North Korea and see how well that's going.
Right.
And exact same thing. You have the state, the government, basically generating fear. I should back up a little bit. what used to be happening was it was all about fear
Right.
of the state coming in and making an example of you or killing your family or some hardcore stuff, which obviously is disgusting and nobody wants that, but in turn creates a rebellion. Maybe not overnight, but slowly it happens. The masses, if you will, start to realize we are living under a totalitarian, horrible regime, and in some sense, it's an us versus them mentality.
Right. And so what they've done here is, insidiously, they have shifted this the role of the fearmonger really off of the state and onto your friends and neighbors. Because the more you resent or post bad things or say bad things or don't buy the right products, the lower your score gets. It drags their score down. It keeps them from getting special benefits, travel, visas approved, loans, whatever have you. Right? It's a control mechanism, and so now they don't want to talk to you. So it compartmentalizes your speech. If you're saying the wrong things, well, people don't want to hear it because they don't want to be drugged down. So you get ostracized, right? So, and then, and so it uses the people to self-police and self-encourage, the perpetual totalitarian state, which is a radical shift from usually the state being the one that does the enforcement. Right?
Well, and in a way, this is a radical shift, and I agree with you that in a sick and twisted way, this is ingenious. However, it's also unbelievably terrifying.
Absolutely.
This is terrorism. Okay,
right.
Full on, no holds barred. This is it. And you talk about obviously they didn't have free speech anyway. Now they really don't. You are being surveilled anywhere. And in my estimation, I kind of figured that while it will become that much more difficult to get a rebellion started, if you will, I don't think it's out of the question, though. I still maintain that even with people policing other people and basically your friends, and I use quotes on that because what are your Facebook friends?
Acquaintances, coworkers.
Really, yeah, I mean they're not really your true blue have your back friends.
Some of them maybe, but probably not all of them.
But I would say that would be a very small minority of people. The same thing holds true here. So you're going to have competition. They've made your whole being, your livelihood, they've turned it into a sick game. So if you make a mistake, it no longer is just on the internet, or it's no longer just a game that you're playing and you can just turn it off.
Right.
Gone are the days when you can just, okay, I got a bad score, I'm having a bad time on this game. I'm just going to turn it off and go, drink some hot chocolate or something.
All right. So, Auntie Oligarchy, let me play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
And somebody in the audience may be saying or thinking, well, so what? It's China. They've always been goofed up over there. You know what? Why should we care? Here about what kind of ridiculous policies or things they implement in China?
Oh my goodness.
What would you say to those?
I would say, brace yourselves, because while it's going to be mandatory for the Chinese people, and what was it, 5 years?
In 5 years.
5 years. Brace yourselves, because this game, actually the game is already in play here. It's already in play. It's not mandatory, and it's not
reported. It's not open.
Exactly, but it's in play. Don't be fooled. Your information on all your social media, on all of your, matter of fact, we're great examples of it because we're monitored. I know people watch, and sometimes I post things and they all mysteriously disappear or something happens. So please don't tell me that it's not in play.
The NSA is already monitoring what's going on, and they certainly have those of us that they think are terrorists or whatever. And it's interesting. I know we did on another show, we talked a little bit about what the Department of Homeland Security has deemed as some of the watch things for terrorism.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was talking to one of the other show members about that before we started filming. You know, I mean, if you take a look at what was on that list that was leaked to the Missouri State Police,
Yeah.
right? If you were a military veteran, a member of a third political party, if you're pro-life, if you're a gun owner, right?
If you do your dealings
In cash.
if you carry cash,
Right.
and you're not always using a credit card or debit card.
No, think about
Yeah.
how common most of these things were, you know, 20, 50, 70 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and military service? Are you kidding me? You know, I mean, when I was a kid, we always looked up to, you know, the military, the veterans, the people who had fought for our liberties. I mean, it may have been propaganda. It may have been, you know, what we were
Yeah.
fed. And there's, with any information, there's always a truth and another side to the coin. But the bottom line is, my point is, it was idealized. It was something you strove for, something that was honorable.
Right.
Right? And owning your own business, that was the American dream. That was what the whole founding was upon. You know, I mean, back when we were ruled under England and we were, we had a king,
Yeah.
you didn't own anything. The king owned everything.
Right. You were subjects.
That's right.
Yeah.
You were subjects of the king. There was no private property.
Exactly.
You know, if you're lucky, he let you live someplace where he said. And now the whole idea was, let's turn that on its side. You know, there is no divine right of kings. You know, people have the right to own property. They have the right to lead their lives as they see fit.
They also have the right to privacy.
Right to privacy, right? And now, you know, we've somehow now gotten to the point where we're calling those same things signs of terrorism.
Right. And so I guess in a real roundabout way for your question,
Right.
I feel, honestly, it's already here. It's just not quite in your face as it is in China.
Right. So be vigilant, right?
Very much so.
And keep your eyes open and watch out for things like that.
Yeah, when they start reporting that you should, pay attention to what your friends are doing and what they're saying and what they're buying, and which is already happening to some degree.
Right.
But then when they decide that if you don't fall in line with what everyone else is doing, and it starts to affect your credit score or your ability to obtain funds or a loan or to travel, to move freely,
Yeah.
well, then we're there.
So let's hope that what happened in China doesn't become mainstream here. I think we're probably going to have to take a little bit of a break here and come back for the next segment of the Liberty Show. So let's go ahead and do that now, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Thanks.
You know, I'm really gonna do it. I'm gonna buy a house.
Good! Because home ownership, that's the American dream. And everyone deserves to be a part of it. Everyone.
Would be pretty neat to have one here.
No, this is not zoned for residential.
Gov, I was just joking.
I'm gonna help you find a house in a good and proper place, okay?
Hey, not zoned for residential. No domiciles here.
You're yelling at birds building a nest.
Alexis, I was just joking.
Cute. I can't believe I was gonna buy a house with him.
Everyone has a blind spot. Yours is Gov. Mine is, well, if I knew, it wouldn't be a blind spot.
Thinking people want to hear you talk about bitcoins.
Everyone wants to hear about bitcoins. The blockchain is the future of global currency. But I guess you have other things on your mind right now.
Gov. It seemed like he knew everything.
So, are you sure about this? Buying a house is a really big financial decision.
Gov thinks it's a great idea.
Oh, he thinks it's a good idea.
Do you not like Gov?
No, It's not that I don't like him. It's just that he's kind of like a black hole sucking everything into his singularity of awfulness.
Yep. Gov is quite a force.
Speaking of Gov, hey, Lexi, you ready to go house hunting? You're here. Well, it's really great to see that you can survive in direct sunlight.
She was just helping me make sure my price range is right so that everything fits within my budget.
Budget? What is that? Never even heard of such a word. You know what this is? This is Libby once again being focused on prices and costs. You deserve to be in a house that you want. I'll make sure you get the money you need to make it work.
But that's how we got that housing bubble. See, it's not a question of deserve. The finances have to be there too. Now, if you look at this, you can see the history
Do you mind if I just... Wow, that is great. Oh, I accidentally deleted your app. No, wait. Now I deleted it. Let's go get you a house. It's your right.
Here we are. Doesn't it just have the cutest curb appeal?
I love it.
It's on wetlands. Gonna have to have this bulldozed.
I think that's just a sprinkler.
That's for the EPA to decide.
All right, well, on to the next one. He's meticulous.
I think financially I can make this one work. I'll have to make a few sacrifices. Only buy off-brand cola, steal my neighbor's Wi-Fi. But yeah, I can do it.
Perfect.
This is what it's gonna cost to bring it up to code.
And now I can't.
I'm gonna call my bulldoze guy. He works really quickly.
This is
Hello?
so many numbers.
Hey.
How can you tell this place is built on an Indian burial ground?
Native Americans. Yee.
This is a house.
It's a dump.
It's perfect! The outlets are the proper distance apart. It's got the mandated GFCIs. It's got LEDs and everything. And you gotta see a proper return on these handrails.
It still seems expensive for what it is. But I guess this is the best I can maybe afford.
Let's get you a loan. I love loans. It's the best part of home ownership.
Oh, and I'll get you that paperwork when you've already left.
Alexis, your loan has been denied.
What? Why?
Well, you can't expect to be approved for a $225,000 loan when you're already hundreds of thousands in debt.
That's not true. Maybe I wrote my social security number down wrong. Sometimes my 4s look like 9s. And...
Well, my denials never look like approvals.
If it's a question of social security numbers, I might be able to scrounge some more up.
How did I get in all this debt? Can you help me?
With what?
Don't you have savings?
No.
I thought you had some high-paying job.
No, I don't have a job. I mean, I never really had a job.
So now you're always throwing money around.
Oh, I'm massively in debt. Massively. Except that it's actually other people's debt, so it's complicated.
You ran up all this debt on me?
Did you not know about this?
I'm bankrupt. You've bankrupted me.
Do you two need a moment alone, or?
Look, however bad bankruptcy is, no matter how bleak this looks right now, I just need you to keep one thing in mind. You still have to pay back your student loans, because those don't go away.
Oh no, you haven't paid those back yet? Oh, that's not good.
Not even close.
Welcome back to the Liberty Show. I hope you enjoyed the Love Gov video. I like those things. They're pretty funny.
Yeah, they are.
If they weren't so true, it would be even more funny.
I know.
But, well, we wanted to leave you today with some ideas of, what are we doing this for? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why do we make this show, Auntie?
Well, and also, someone might be wondering, guys are talking about stuff happening in China, right? And we already described why it's important to know what could be happening here, pretty soon. But overall, why do we do this show? For the most part, we want to spread the message of liberty and how important it is and how tenuous it is at this point in time.
Yeah, it seems like mankind has been on a struggle to obtain or maintain liberty all through the ages. And we all have to be vigilant to protect it if we want to have it, if we want to keep it, because there's always somebody willing to take it away from you.
Oh yeah.
For their own benefit. So we made a list of a few things that you can do if you know. This is a call to action. We're asking you to help in some way, shape, or form, and it doesn't have to be dollars. It doesn't have to be much of anything. Here's just some examples of some things that you can do. And most of them don't have anything to do with money. So the number one on the list, you could run for office. Running for office allows you the soapbox, so to speak, and the platform to get up and talk about these issues, and the opportunity potentially to wake other people up and to get other people interested. It's not even always about winning. It's more about getting the message and trying to awaken up others. Right now, we frankly don't have the numbers to win. I'm not lying. You've seen the results. We have work to do. It's not going to happen by itself. If you want it to succeed, you're going to have to do something to work for it. Number two on the list, you can vote Libertarian. Libertarians are working furiously to seize control of the government so they can leave you alone. So someone has to do it. Number three, you can help someone else run for office, either by contributing some time to their campaign, money, whatever the case may be. Number four, you can share these videos and ideas with friends and family. Now this is the important one really right here.
Yeah.
This really requires nothing but speaking, communicating in one shape or form. It doesn't even mean talking. It could be through social media, through tweeting.
Exactly.
And it doesn't even have to mention a party or anything political. You can talk just strictly about freedom and freedom concepts.
Sure.
And that will do a lot to open people's eyes. In fact, it's probably the thing that you need to start with. Before you can understand why there's a Libertarian Party, you have to understand some of these other concepts and some of the reasons why we're here.
Well, and also time is of the essence. If anything, that video that we showed earlier, what's happening in China, share these things while you still can. Before it affects your credit score or something ridiculous like that.
Number five, you can donate time or money to any of these efforts. If you don't feel like any of these things are your strong suits, there are other people who do feel like they have strong suits and they need time and resources. So maybe it's help set up a booth. Maybe you're terrified to work the booth, but you'll help us set it up and take it down. I mean, any small amount of help is incredibly helpful and appreciated by all of us.
Definitely.
You can come to a local meeting and find us at meetup.com on the internet, and you can look for Michiana Libertarians, and I think we're going to put something on the screen that talks about how to find us there. We'd love to meet you in person. If you like to come out and ask us questions or anything and tell us that we're crazy, we're even down for that.
And usually there's pizza involved.
We probably buy you pizza to tell us how crazy we are. And then number seven, you can email us with questions, comments, or other show ideas. If there's a topic you'd like us to talk about, if there's something you'd like us to discuss, it doesn't have to be local. It can be national. It can be international, whatever the case may be. If it's about liberty and you want us to do a show on it, we certainly will. And we'd love to hear from you. So we're going to also put up our email address, and we'd love to get some feedback from you.
Definitely.
I think that's all we have for you this week. So for Anti-Oligarchy, I'm Ron Senkush. Thank you so much for tuning into the Liberty Show, and we will see you next time. Until then, live free.
Thank you.